child arrived just the other day. He came to the world in the usual way, but there were planes to catch and bills to pay. He learned to walk while I was away, and he was talking before I knew it. And as he grew, he'd say, I'm gonna be like you, Dad. You know I'm gonna be like you. And the cat's in the cradle and a silver spoon, little boy blue and the man in the moon. When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when, but we'll get together then, son. You know we'll have a good time then. Well, my son turned 10 just the other day. He said, thanks for the ball, Dad, come on, let's play. Can you teach me to throw? I said, not today, I got a lot to do. He said, that's okay, and he walked away, but his smile never dimmed. He said, I'm gonna be like him, yeah, you know I'm gonna be like him. And the cat's in the cradle and a silver spoon, little boy blue and the man in the moon. When you're coming home, Dad, I don't know when, but we'll get together then, son. You know we'll have a good time then. Well, he came from college just the other day, so much like a man I just had to say, son, I'm proud of you, can you sit for a while? He shook his head and he said with a smile, what I'd really like, Dad, is to borrow the car keys. See you later, can I have them, please? And the cat's in the cradle and a silver spoon, little boy blue and the man in the moon. When you're coming home, son, I don't know when, we'll get together then, Dad. You know we'll have a good time then. Well, I've long since retired, my son's moved away. I called him up just the other day. I said, I'd like to see you if you don't mind. He said, I'd love to, Dad, if I could find the time. You see, my new job's a hassle and the kids are the flu, but it's sure nice talking to you, Dad. It's been sure nice talking to you. And as he hung up the phone, it occurred to me, he'd grown up just like me. My boy was just like me. And the cat's in the cradle and a silver spoon, little boy blue and the man in the moon. When you're coming home, son, I don't know when, but we'll get together then, Dad. You know we'll have a good time then.
We ought to hang on to it for a year or two anyway, till we can figure out something better than that.
You know what it would cost to keep up a place like that? Something like $6,000 a year on a $7,000 salary.
But you're not going to always be making $7,000.
That's what I mean. I could be making less.
But you can't look at things like that, Tommy. You've got to believe that things are going to get better. Promotions, opportunities, some good breaks. That's what life is. Hope and the breaks. You can't just accept the way things are now.
I think we ought to sell it and put the money in the bank or some insurance. Well, did you ever stop to think what might happen to you if I should drop dead some morning?
I'll drop dead right there by you.
What about the children?
I don't even want to think about that. What I want to know is, you don't expect to be with the foundation forever, do you?
Well, of course not, but you've got to admit it's an absolutely safe spot.
All right, then. What about this? We sell Grandma's house and this house, too, and we get us a nice house in a nice neighborhood.
So here we go on that again.
But why not? If we can make maybe 15,000 on this one, and with what we clear on Grandma's, we...
Look, honey, don't you understand?
I'm sorry, Tommy. You know how I hate this house, but you don't know how much I hate it. It's ugliness. It's depression. But most of all, it's defeat. Don't you feel that at all?
Well, it's not exactly a palace.
It's a graveyard, Tommy. A graveyard of everything we used to talk about. Happiness, fun, ambition. And I want to get out of it.
But if we put it all in the bank...
And go on living here for the rest of our lives?
Betsy, maybe you don't know it, but there are a lot of people in this world who are doing a lot worse than we are.
Oh, no, they're not. They may look like it, but they're not. There are things about this house. It's not a happy house, Tommy.
I don't think that's true, Betsy.
Ever since the war.
Will you stop harping on the war? It's been over for 10 years. It's gone and forgotten.
I don't believe it. Not for you, anyway. Whether you know it or not...
All I know is that I don't think this is any time to be taking chances.
Then if it wasn't the war, what has happened to you?
What do you mean, what's happened to me?
I don't know. Except that you've lost your guts and all of a sudden I'm ashamed of you.
You want another?
No, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday morning worship service at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of York. I am Kate Haldeman, and I will be helping to lead our service this morning. Today, our service is dedicated to Father's Day. It is a day to recognize and celebrate those men and others who have stepped into the shoes of fatherhood with love and commitment for the young ones under their care, those who have striven to balance the demands of work, marriage, children with both joy and sacrifice. Today, we lift up those who figured out how to be a good father figure without any training or role model to follow, only their good judgment and values. We acknowledge that Father's Day can be uncomfortable for those who have painful memories. We hold in love all of those who suffered at the hands of abusive parents. And so we come together again this morning for worship and fellowship as we greet old friends and new visitors alike. This Unitarian Universalist congregation is welcoming of all seekers of truth, beauty, justice, and compassion, cherishing our diversity of race, age, gender, sexual identity and orientation, religious background, and perspective on life. Our mission here at UUCY, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of York, is a religious community that inspires mind and spirit, honors religious freedom, and embraces diversity. Its members minister to each other with love and work for a just society. We would especially like to welcome any guests or visitors who have joined us for our service brought to you by Zoom this morning. It's wonderful to meet you, even if we can't yet meet you in person. In keeping with our Unitarian Universalist tradition, we light a chalice as we begin our service, and we invite you at home to light a candle wherever you are at this moment. Our chalice lighting words today were written by Reverend Peter Fredericks. We light our chalice for fathers and for fatherhood, for sleepless nights awaiting the curfew breakers, for anxious hours as a driving instructor, for hours spent on the sideline cheering, for watching school plays, sometimes resting our eyes, for the pressures of breadwinning, and wait till your father comes home, for teaching moments and mentoring moments, for making up answers when you just don't know, but you're expected because you know everything, for scrapes and boo-boo kisses and band-aids, for hugs and kisses and silliness and play, for bedtime stories and early morning ice time, for all the aftershave and ties you received as gifts, for handing over car keys and waving bye, for father-daughter wedding dances, for cradling grandchildren for the first time, for all the moments and all the meaning of life, and all the meaning in the role of a lifetime. We light our chalice for fathers and for fatherhood. And now, Avery Clark and Gretchen Decker will sing a well-known UU hymn for us, number 298, Wake Now My Senses.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving, as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Of time, suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take us your neighbor, both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my conscience, with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who
Good morning again. Thanks for watching us this morning and being with us on this beautiful summer morning, the first day of summer. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Reverend Terry Cummings. I'm the contract minister here at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of York, and it's my pleasure to be here with you this morning. Today we celebrate Father's Day. We celebrate Father's Day in song and in story. The song we're celebrating with you today is the song Cats in the Cradle, that was the music of which was written by Harry Chapin, but the words are actually a poem by his wife Sandy, a poem that she wrote about her first husband and the relationship between her first husband and his father. And Chapin said that the story reminded him of his relationship with his son Josh. And Chapin is quoted as saying, "Frankly, this song scares me to death." And the story that we'll be sharing with you today is the story of The Man in the Grey Flannel Suit. It's a story that was written in 1951 and made into a movie in 1956. It's the story of a returning war hero who has a secret. The secret is that while he was abroad fighting in Italy, he lived with another woman and had a child by her. And the story follows his journey of fatherhood here in America and finally finding a way to be a father to provide for his son in Italy. I hope that you will enjoy the excerpts that we share with you. Parenthood is, I think, the hardest job in the whole world. There's really no training or preparation for it. Our children see us as something different than people. They see us as their parents. Those of us who love our children, and almost all of us really do the best that we can, but we're always, always, always asking, could we do better? We never know if we're doing the right thing. I've spent some time over the last few years apologizing to my kids for some of the things I could have done better. They've all said that there was no need for an apology, and they actually think that I was a pretty good dad. I know it's weird to see a woman standing in front of you as a dad, but things are changing, and we're all just getting used to a different normal. And both of my kids called me today to wish me a happy Father's Day, and I'm very grateful for that. And so we begin our worship today with some words of gathering, and of course, you know I love Mary Oliver, and I would like to share with you a poem she wrote called A Visitor. It's a story of a poem about her deceased father visiting her. Mary Oliver. My father, for example, who was young once and blue-eyed, returns on the darkest of nights to the porch and knocks wildly at the door. And if I answer, I must be prepared for his waxy face, for his lower lip swollen with bitterness. And so for a long time, I did not answer, but slept fitfully between his hours of rapping. But finally, there came the night when I rose out of my sheets and stumbled down the hall. The door fell open, and I knew I was saved and could bear him, pathetic and hollow, with even the least of his dreams frozen inside him, and the meanness gone. And I greeted him and asked him into the house and lit the lamp, and looked into his blank eyes, in which at last I saw what a child must love. I saw what love might have done had we loved in time. Up next is the next excerpt from our movie, a video clip from The Man in the Grey Flannel Suit, followed by that Matt Shinneman will share a story for all ages with you.
We'll have your name here sometime this afternoon. Miss Lawrence, this is Mr. Rath. Miss Lawrence will be your secretary. How do you do, Miss Lawrence?
Very glad to meet you, Mr. Rath.
We always give a new man the prettiest secretary. Keeps him happy during the breaking in period. Well, how do you like it?
It's not very much like the old foundation.
Glad to have you aboard, Tom.
Thank you, Gordon.
He's all yours, Bill.
We're going to list you as special assistant to the president, but that won't apply in any way to company business, only to this special project, nothing else.
I see.
There'll be a trial period of 6 months at least, and you'll be directly responsible to me.
That's all right.
Now, the pitch is this. There's a big convention of doctors at Atlantic City on the 15th of next month, and Mr. Hopkins has been asked to speak. That's when we're going to try to get this thing off the ground with this speech. This is some stuff to get you into the picture.
You mean you want me to write this speech for him?
Nobody writes Mr. Hopkins' speeches but Mr. Hopkins. We simply do the research, kick around ideas with him, and block out a rough preliminary form.
I see.
And if the speech is right, it will not even mention a national mental health campaign. But at the end of it, the entire audience will rise as one man and demand not only that such a campaign be launched at once, but that Mr. Hopkins should head it.
Is that all?
I shouldn't be facetious about it if I were you.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Father's Day to the fathers out there. I am going to share a story with you today, and it is called Give Love. So there was a father, and he was speaking to his daughter, and he asked, "What would you like for your birthday this year?" And she kind of wrinkled her nose and squinched her eyes and thought about it, and the dad asked, do you want a doll? And she goes, "No." "Well, how about a tea set?" "No." "What about a pony?" "No, Daddy, I have to think what I really want for my birthday this year. It has to be really, really special." "All right," the father said, "so you think about it and you let me know." So Ellen, who was the daughter, she thought about it. And she thought and she thought, and she thought of all the different things that she could have. She could ask for chocolates or new dresses or kids' boots or books or music. But she didn't know if that would be all that special. And she really wanted the gift this year to be special. So every day her dad would ask her, "Do you know what you want for your birthday yet?" And Ella would shake her head, "No, I'm still thinking." So after like 4, 5, 6 days, finally, with her birthday coming up, her dad said, "Ellen, have you figured it out?" And she says, "Yes, Dad, I have. I've decided." And so finally the dad said, "Okay, what can I get for you?" And Ellen says, "Well, I can't tell you exactly, so I'm going to tell you a riddle about what I want." And here's the riddle. Now, let's see if you all can figure it out before the father does. The riddle is, you cannot buy it, for it is worth all the money in the world, but only you can give it. So that's the riddle, and that's the riddle that the daughter, Ellen, gave her father. You can't buy it because it's worth all the money in the world, but only you can give it. So he repeated it to himself over and over and over again until it finally kind of got sunk in his head, and he thought about it, and he thought about it, and he thought about it. And finally, he figured it out. Have you figured it out? So the morning comes of Ellen's birthday, and she's opening up her gifts, and she realizes that her dad hasn't given her a gift yet. So she climbed up into his lap, and this is what he said to her. He said that my present this year is so very special because you asked for it to be extra special. And I hope it's what you wanted. because it's not a book or dresses or music or new boots, but I have a present that I'll be able to give you over and over again. My birthday gift to you this year is that we will spend time together every week, just the two of us. For you are my special daughter, and I love you dearly. And Ellen, her eyes lit up, and she hugged her dad really big, and she's like, oh, I knew you'd figure it out. And her father said, you cannot buy it, for it's worth all the money in the world, but only you can give it. And it took me a long time to figure out the answer, but when I did get it, I knew exactly what you wanted. And the answer was simple. You wanted me to give myself, my love. And that's really what fatherhood, motherhood, parenthood kind of means to me. It's about being there for your children. And I know Terry just spoke about, some of the mistakes that we make and we apologize for, but we can just do the best we can by being there, by giving ourselves of our time and our love. So I hope you all keep that message with you, that sometimes we just got to spend time with our children. That's it. Just give them our time and our love. And sometimes that's the best that we can do and offer, is ourselves, flaws and all. God knows I have some. So I hope you keep that with you. And with that, I would like to offer a video that we made with a couple of kids from our congregation. So happy Father's Day and enjoy.
You ready? What is your dad's name? Daddy. And what makes your dad special? What makes Daddy special? Bath? Okay. And finish the sentence, okay? I love my dad because
He's nice.
he's nice. Uh-oh.
My dad's name is Matt. He's special because he's a good runner, and I love him because he pushes me to be my best.
My dad's name is Matthew. He is special because he exercises with me, and I love him because he's my dad.
What's your daddy's name? Can you speak up a little bit? What's your daddy's name?
Tyler Lynn.
Okay. What makes your daddy special?
I give him kisses and huggies.
You give him kisses and huggies? And that makes him special? Okay, how about this? You finish the sentence. I love my dad because...
Because I like him.
Because you like him? All right.
No!
What is your dad's name?
Tyler.
What makes your dad special?
He fixes stuff for us.
Okay, finish the sentence. I love my dad because...
I love my dad because he makes good food.
What is your dad's name?
Tyler.
What makes your dad special?
He can go in the garage and he can build stuff.
Okay. I love my dad because...
He is awesome and
helps me. Stop moving. Should stop moving.
My dad's name is Dan Fink. Something that makes him special is that he's super smart. You can give him any math problem and he'll figure it out. And he knows a lot about history. I love him because he is so kind and so nice and generous. He also makes me laugh whenever I'm upset, and whenever I'm trying to be mad at him, he always seems to make me laugh. And he is always there when I need him.
My dad's name is Dan Fink, and he is special because he's always there for me when I need help with schoolwork or for homework, and he always helps me work through it. And I love my dad because he always cheers me up when I'm sad or when anyone else is sad. He always knows what to say to help them feel better.
What is your dad's name?
Eric Ekstrom.
What makes your dad special?
He likes to inform me and my sister on new topics.
And finish this sentence. I love my dad because...
I love my dad because he takes care of me and my family.
What is your dad's name?
Eric.
What makes your dad special?
He is really smart and is able to fix things around the house.
And finish this sentence. I love my dad because...
He would do anything for me and my family.
At this time in our service, we pause and ask you to make a contribution to our Sunday offering. Our offering not only helps to support the work of the congregation, it helps to support our current Share the Plate partner, which is the Unitarian Universalist Pennsylvania Legislative Advocacy Network, UPLAN. Their mission is to promote justice by voting, advocating, and making just public policies. Our very own Carol Stowell and Reverend Terry are on the board of directors of UPLAN. which currently is working with the Unitarian Universalist Association's UU the Vote program to improve voter registration in Pennsylvania. Information on how to give online were included in your email that accompanied your order of service. We give thanks for the many blessings we have each received in our lives, and we acknowledge the generosity of spirit expressed through this offering. May we use these gifts wisely and well.
At this time, it's the last service of our regular church year. I'm going to invite you to join me in a moment of prayer. The last prayer I'll give from the pulpit this church year. It's been a difficult year in our country and our lives. And today on Father's Day, I'm going to invite you to pray, meditate with me for fatherhood on this day. Ask you to find that place inside you, that special place, that altar that we all have within us that connects to that which is holy. However we all perceive the holy to be, we all have something, a way of connecting with the universe, the unknown, the natural, the supernatural. Will you join me in prayer now? Holy One, today we give thanks for all those who've stepped into the shoes of fatherhood. We ask that you help us to comfort those who are missing fathers, missing children, those who are parted by distance or death. We pray for those whose fathers have disappointed them. We ask for grace in relationships where there is pain and bitterness, for healing in relationships where there is abuse and violence. We pray today for fathers around the world, fathers who cannot feed their children, fathers who are homeless or without a homeland, fathers who must teach their children about the dangers of bombs and bullets. Holy One, help us to create a world where fathers can raise their children in peace and plenty, in joy and love. God of many names and none, we also ask for blessings and grace on this congregation, this community, and this wonderful blue-green speck of rock floating in the universe, the vastness of space that we call the earth. Thank you. Thank you for this world. Thank you for this community. Thank you for this time together. Amen.
All right, so I had this melody, which is how I write songs. I wrote the music first. She goes, "Daddy, what happens when you die?" So I said, "Oh man, whew, okay." And I told her what I really believed, and what I really believe is, what happens when you die is you go into other people's hearts, that you never really go away. You go into the rest of the people that you knew. You go into the rest of their lives. They take them with you. So, but also this was during a time when her mom and I were splitting up. So this was like a double-pronged thing, like, "Daddy, you're going to leave me?" And I said, "I'll never leave you. I will never leave you. I'll never go away. I will never, never, ever leave you. So it was a tough answer, you know, in both respects. So I'm trying to remember when I was writing them. Good night, my angel. Time to close your eyes and save these questions for another day. I think I know what you've been asking me. I think you know what I've been trying to say. I promised I would never leave you, and you should always know, wherever you may go, no matter where you are, I never will be far away. Good night, my angel, now it's time to sleep. Still so many things I want to say. Remember all the songs you sang for me when we went sailing on an emerald bay. And like a boat out on the ocean, I'm rocking you to sleep. The water's dark and deep inside this ancient ark. You'll always be a part of me.
Now, just a minute. What's the matter with you?
It's not what's the matter with me, it's what's the matter with you. Even thinking of such a slimy trick.
Well, what do you think I ought to do? Go in there and tell the man his speech is a farce and get thrown out of my ear?
How do you know you get thrown out on your ear? Is he that much up against honesty?
Look, Betsy, you don't know this business.
Is he dishonest himself?
How do I know whether he's dishonest? That's exactly the point. I haven't the faintest idea who's honest in there and who's not. All I know is that he helped write this speech, and it's his own personal baby.
I don't care whose baby it is. This is a speech that can make or break a very important health campaign for this country, isn't it?
It could.
And are you going to tell him the truth about it or not?
But how do you know that that's the truth? How do you know that this isn't precisely the way to appeal to those people?
Oh, Tommy, you don't even believe that yourself.
Well, it's exactly the sort of appeal that sells $1 billion worth of cars in this country every year.
That's entirely different. That's some kind of mass nonsense. These are very intelligent men he'll be talking to. They'll throw up at that muck.
Well, you don't know anything about it, one way or the other.
All I know is that he's asked you for an honest opinion in a very important matter, and I'd like awfully to know if he's going to get it or not.
Well, I could have told you that at the beginning. He is.
You mean you're going to tell him?
I'm going to tell him exactly what I've told you, that I honestly don't know. But that this sort of approach has been successful in other sales campaigns, and I see no reason why it can't work in this one.
Are you trying to kid me?
But that is the truth. The exact truth, as a matter of fact.
I've got to go finish the dishes.
Now, just a minute, Betsy. I've told you that this is a loaded situation, and with all kinds of angles to it. But there's another side to it which I think you must have overlooked. It just so happens that I've landed in one of the neatest positions in the whole organization, right next to Hopkins himself. It's a spot that 3/4 of the people at UBC would give their right arms for, and he likes me, I know it. Now, will you try to remember what that could mean to us if I handle it carefully?
If you handle it carefully and honestly, yes.
Weren't you the one that wanted more money? New house, no more worries every week?
I still do. But that wasn't the real idea. The real idea was that I wanted you to go out and fight for something again. Like the fellow I married. Not to turn into a cheap, slippery yes man.
That's wonderful. But would you think about this for a minute or two? When a man's got plenty of security, money in the bank, other jobs waiting for him, it's a cinch to be fearless and full of integrity. But when he's got a wife and 3 children to support, and his job's all he's got, what do you think he ought to do about it then?
I know what I'd do.
And while we're about it, there's another little thing I think you ought to think about. We may not even own this house.
What do you mean?
Edward's come up with some kind of a letter from Grandma leaving it to him.
Do you think that's possible?
It's not what I think, it's what the court will decide. Meanwhile, I think you ought to keep that little situation in mind while you're giving me this lecture on nobility.
All right. You can try it. But I don't think it'll work.
Well, you just leave that to me. I never wanted to get into this rat race, but now that I'm in it, I think I'd be an idiot not to play it the way everybody else plays it.
No, I mean with you. Because for a decent man, there's never any peace of mind without honesty. And I've always thought of you as a decent man. Right now, it just makes me wonder how long it'll be before you decide it'll be simpler and safer not to tell me the truth.
My child arrived just the other day, came to the world in the usual way, but there were planes to catch and bills to pay. He learned to walk while I was away. He was talking before I knew it, and as he grew, he said, "Gonna be like you, Dad. You know, gonna be like you." This song has resonated with me ever since the first time I heard it. Back in the day when I lived in maleness, I felt the pressure to be a provider, the responsibility to make good on the promise to provide the American dream for my family. And I remember feeling resentful that my life was given over to an onslaught of work and paying bills. I barely had time with any of my kids or my family. And I was one of the lucky ones. I had work that was reasonably secure over the years. Many people, especially right now, have little hope of having the opportunities that I had. And I look at my kids' generation and I honestly feel awful for them. My son graduated college in 2008, just at the beginning of the Great Recession, had a really hard time. Then recently found a job as a preschool teacher, great job, and then the COVID pandemic hit. It feels like The generation that came after mine has just had one challenge after another, and I worry that, I know that that generation that came after me will not have the same things that I had. Being the family provider, a role still typically associated with being a man, but less and less so, can be overwhelming. We live in a country in which men's lives, their worth and their dignity are often defined by their jobs. How many times have we met somebody for the first time at lunch or at a meeting or at a cocktail party or in a bar, and one of the first questions we ask them is, so what do you do for a living? How many times do we ask them, what was the last story you read to your children at bedtime? The father in the song, Cats in the Cradle, doesn't notice the lost opportunity to spend time with his son because he's so immersed in the now, the urgency, the need to be a provider. But as time goes by, like so many of us who have been in that situation, the dad realizes that he missed a big chunk of his son's childhood. Well, my son turned 10 just the other day. He said, "Thanks for the ball, Dad. Come on, let's play. Could you teach me to throw?" I said, "Not today. I got a lot to do." He said, "That's okay." And he walked away and he smiled and he said, "You know, I'm going to be like him, yeah. You know, I'm going to be just like him." I've had many conversations with my own son over the years, and my daughter too. But my son in particular has been the one to say, you know, Terry, I wish I could be more like you. I've always told him I wouldn't wish being me on anybody. Sometimes it's hard to convince your child that you love them unconditionally, just the way they are. Children look at us through such different eyes. Well, he came from college just the other day, so much like a man, I just had to say, "I'm proud of you. Could you sit for a while?" He shook his head and he said with a smile, "What I'd really like, Dad, is to borrow the car keys. See you later. Can I have them, please?" That's familiar too, isn't it? Eventually, fathers and their sons and their daughters switch roles, and mothers too. We realize that our children have lives of their own, and it begins to dawn on us that the days of our being present in our kids' lives were numbered right from the very start. And instead of us trying to fit time in with our kids, it's us who are trying to make room so that our kids can find time for us. We know that the day will come when they will leave us. In the end, the song Cats in the Cradle reveals that the son has become just like the father after all. I've long since retired. My son's moved away. I called him up just the other day. "I'd like to see you if you don't mind." He said, "I'd love to, Dad, if I could find the time. You see, my new job's a hassle, and the kids have the flu. But it's sure nice talking to you, Dad. It's been sure nice talking to you." And as I hung up the phone, it occurred to me he'd grown up just like me. My boy was just like me. And I see that in my own kids, and it makes me sad and proud at the same time. Proud of them, not necessarily proud of me. Cats in the Cradle was released almost 20 years after the movie that we've been showing you clips from this morning. That movie, The Man in the Grey Flannel Suit, was released in 1956. 64 years ago, the struggle between work and home depicted in the film was very similar to the struggle that goes on today in so many households. The Man in the Grey Flannel Suit is a story about a couple named Tom and Betsy Rath coping with the spiritual limitations that come from keeping up with the American dreams. We meet Tom and Betsy after Tom has returned from serving overseas in World War II. For 3 years before the war, they had been the epitome of a young couple in love before Tom went off to serve. Appearances aren't always reliable. As we learn later in the movie, while Tom was stationed in Italy, he lived with a woman, Maria, and had a son by her. When Tom comes home, he and his wife buy a house in the Connecticut suburbs. I don't know if many of you are familiar with Grand Central Station and the commute to New York, but it's a part of the iconography of American life, the daily commute into Manhattan from Connecticut. So Tom gets a raise and has a bright future, but neither he nor Betsy are happy with their existence, mandated by the American dream. Tom would love to step off the treadmill and enjoy a life of freedom, but he doesn't see a way out because of his family responsibilities and because of the need to keep up appearances with the neighbors. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, in 2017, the latest year for which data is available, 19.7 million children, more than 1 in 4 kids, live without a father in their home. The social consequence of this is obviously enormous. Research has shown that the presence or absence of a supportive male role model has a major impact on a child's development and behavior. And that's one reason why today, being Father's Day, we lift up fathers like those in our song and in the novel. Guys who are anything but deadbeat dads. Guys who work to be good providers. Men who love and care for their families and make sacrifices for their sake. It's hard to live up to the image that our society has for both moms and dads. And how can we expect men to spend more time with their kids when the message they receive from the time they're young boys and throughout their lives is that our world doesn't value men's roles as caregivers as much as it values their role in making money? But we live at a time when changing attitudes provides an opportunity to find new ways of doing things, to find ways in which men can have a different role. In recent years, automation and machines, as well as lower labor costs overseas, more and more women entering the workplace, have begun to erode the opportunities for men to occupy their traditional role as providers. And no wonder so many men are beginning to question whether there is much of an economic future for them and their kids. In a nation that prizes masculinity, maleness, and even aggression in men, loss of provider status can have major psychological consequences. According to the National Institute for Mental Health, depression puts the risk of men dying by suicide 4 times higher than the risk for women. Women tend to attempt suicide more frequently than men, but men are usually more successful than women because they have access to guns, because they act more quickly on suicidal thoughts, and they show fewer warning signs. Depression in men often goes undiagnosed. Talking about one's feelings about depression with family or friends, let alone with a mental health provider, sometimes feels embarrassing for guys. It's not always considered manly for men to express feelings and emotions in America. And oftentimes, there's a stigma attached to just going to see a therapist, and men find it hard even to do it for that reason. Towards the end of The Man in the Gray Flannel Suit, Tom Rath is offered a job that he coveted, a lucrative job with enough power and prestige to make everyone who commutes on the Metro North train to Grand Central Station every day envious. But Tom decides to turn it down. I'm going to read an excerpt from the book by Sloan Wilson. The dialogue in the book is actually, I think, more meaningful than you'll see in the film in a few minutes. Tom is with his boss. Here goes nothing, he thought. Look, Ralph, I don't think I'm the kind of guy who should try to be a big executive. I'll say it frankly. I don't have the willingness to make sacrifices. I don't want to give up the time. I'm trying to be honest about this. I want the money. Nobody likes money more than I do. But I'm just not the kind of guy who can work evenings and weekends and all the rest of it forever. I guess there's even more to it than that. I'm not the kind of person who can get all wrapped up in a job. I can't get myself convinced that my work is the most important thing in the world. I want to get the most out of the years I've got left. Maybe that sounds silly. It's just that if I have to bury myself in a job every minute of my life, I don't see any point to it. And I know that to do the kind of job you want me to do, I'd have to be willing to bury myself in it. And well, I just don't want to. It takes a lot of courage to say that, to speak one's truth, particularly as a man. Tom goes on to live a much happier life with Betsy, even after he tells her about the illegitimate son he has in Italy. So both the song, Cats in the Cradle, and the book remind us of how important it is to find love and joy and to give love and be with those we choose to share our lives with and those who we, as parents, bring into the world. As our society redefines gender roles to conform to what feels natural and right, rather than conforming to the legacy of industrialization and mass production, we should lift up the gifts of heterosexual men who might be forgiven for feeling vulnerable as the institutions of patriarchy receive greater scrutiny. It's the institutions that need to change, as well as our expectations and assumptions, but not the men who do their best every day to do what's best by their families. Maybe so. Thank you for listening. I'm going to share with you our final clip from The Man in the Gray Flannel Suit.
Yes?
Did I wake you?
No, I've been up for hours.
I can understand that all right. I'm a pretty early riser myself. What I called you about, I'm leaving for the coast tomorrow night, and I'd like very much to have you with me. If you can be here at the apartment about 10 this evening, I'll explain the situation to you, and we can go over some of the details together without being rushed. Can you make it?
I'm afraid not, sir.
Oh, you won't have to bother about a train. I'll send you home in my car.
Oh, no, that's not it. It's just that, well, I have to be home with my family this evening.
I wanted you to go and play some Bill Ogden.
I understand.
I'd like very much to have you with me, Tom.
Well, I'd like it too. It's a wonderful opportunity. Don't think I don't appreciate it. But well, you remember those 9 to 5 fellows you were talking about?
Yes?
I'm afraid I'm one of them.
I see.
I'm sorry.
No need to be sorry. No need for anything like that at all. We have to have both kinds, you know. One can't do anything without the other. And if I had my choice again, I have an idea that's what I'd be. 9 to 5, home, family.
Well, that's my plan, anyway.
I'm sure you're right, Tom. Disappointed, but I'm sure you're right. But anyway, will you drop in and see me when you come in?
I'll do that, and thank you very much, sir.
And bring along your version of the speech. We'll go over it together, and you can work on it while I'm away.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You might say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. Hope someday you'll join us, and the world will leave us one.
Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one.
As our service this morning draws to a close, we invite you to share our saying in saying our words as we extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Thank you, Kate, and thank you all of you at home who've shared this hour and 20 minutes with us. This, as I mentioned, is the last service. We'll bring you live from our sanctuary during this church year. I know this year did not unfold exactly as any of us really expected it would unfold. Some of us are tired. I know I'm looking forward to my summer break. But I'm also excited about the year that's coming up. And I'm going to be having some conversations with the leadership of the congregation. They and I will be figuring out ways to avoid doing some of the things that we've done in the past that haven't helped this congregation over the last several years, finding new ways of doing things to support the ministry here, to support the minister and the church's ministry. There's a lot of work that you have to do and work that I have to do and work that we have to do together to hopefully ensure that we have longer lasting ministries in this church going forward. There is much work to do. I'm actually really excited and can't wait to start beginning on that work together with you. And so our closing words today are by Reverend Richard Gilbert. Dick Gilbert wrote this: "As we leave this community of the Spirit, may we remember the difficult lesson that each day offers more things than we can do. May we do what needs to be done, postpone what does not, and be at peace with what we can be and do. Therefore, may we learn to separate that which matters most and that which matters least of all." Our worship is over. Our service, our journey together, the work that we have to do begins. May your roots grow deep. May your branches grow wide. Thank you for this year that we've had together. Have a wonderful summer. And know that my call as your minister is to love you, every single one of you, no matter what. And yes, I do. Again, have a great summer. See you soon.
I'd like to have someone join me on this next song. Someone who I'm sure needs no introduction, because the first word says it all.
Unforgettable. That's what you are. Like a song of love that clings to me, how the thought of you does things to me never before has someone been more.
unforgettable in every way.
And forevermore.
And forevermore.
That's how you'll stay.
That's how you'll stay.
That's why, darling, it's incredible that someone so unforgettable
Thinks that I am unforgettable too.
Someone so unforgettable